Pack Leaders, this is Hien, we're friends of Ari, protecting families, we're protecting the pack. Today we're going to do a video of Veritasium. It's a science channel that I've been watching, and I think it's pretty useful. The topic is success, luck, or hard work? Let's go ahead and play this. I've already seen it, and then I will throw my thoughts into this, okay?
With lockdown, this headline went viral. Nearly half of men say they do homeschooling. 3% of women agree. I bring this up not to debate who's right, but because it's a great example of something called egocentric bias. Most people think they do most of the work. For example, researchers have asked authors of multi-author papers what percentage of the work they personally did. And when they add up those percentages, the sum is on average 140%. When couples are asked to estimate how much of the housework they do, the combined total is almost always over 100%.
Alright, so about that, I think it comes from the training of going to school, getting a job, you doing the hard work, and getting things done. So you see everything that you've done. Yeah, I totally agree. But when you shift over to starting your own business, and you kind of realize, like, man, everything that's built, I didn't do any of this. And as far as, like, you know, the graphic designer, his schooling, 5-10 years of background experience to create a design that I would ever achieve on my own. And the code callers who have perfect they can close, they can be develop relationships and just kind of get the stuff down. And so also accounting, how they're bookkeeping. I mean, just so many aspects to it in business. And as they're building everything, you see the system running like pretty smoothly. You're like, wow, they're actually generating a lot more than what I'm paying them. And on top of that, the success actually came from the numbers, the sheer numbers that they ever pump out and test and test and test and test. And out of those tests, we actually discovered things that I didn't expect. And we're like, wow, we learned something today. Even though we made a mistake, we're like, okay, cool. But then as we make mistakes, if you don't change those mistakes, they do compound as you scale up. But if you see it and you change it and you kind of learn off of that and make that as an advantage, you actually help compound that success. So let's go ahead and continue watching what he says.
Now you might think this is because people want to appear more helpful than they actually are. But that's not it. When couples are asked what fraction of the fights they start or how much of the mess is theirs, the total is again over 100. People think they do more of the work, but they also think they cause more of the problems. So why is this? I think it's simply because you experience and remember vividly all of what you do, but not all of what everyone else does. So naturally, you overestimate your own contributions and underestimate others. And I think this bias leads us to underestimate the influence of other things on our lives, like the role luck plays in our success. Take hockey players, for example. If you ask a professional hockey player how they managed to reach the NHL, they might mention their hard work, determination, great coaches, their parents' willingness to get up at 5 a.m. and so on, but they probably won't acknowledge how lucky they were to be born in January. And yet, in many years, 40% of hockey players selected into top-tier leagues are born in the first quarter of the year, compared to just 10% in the fourth quarter. An early birthday can make you up to 4 times as likely to be a pro hockey player. And the reason...
Alright, so as far as luck goes, I think there's luck in discovering a strategy, a tool, and I'll talk a little bit about the strategies I've found and discovered. For example, let's say that, even though I get it, he was a little older, they gave more training, but, the strategy that the coaches empowered him was, or the older guy kid, was because the coaches learned something and passed it on to him, and he just able to use that strategy that was either discovered by luck or just through sheer numbers of mistakes, and then you find a success, and then passing it on and doing it right. Now, I think you pass that same skill to the smaller guy, and also he's performing and practicing constantly just as good as the taller guy. I think they'll do just as well as far as the success go, because you can't really. I think that size doesn't matter. It's what's inherent and how you use that strategy. Just like any battleground war or whatever, it's the brains over bronze. It doesn't matter. You have a bigger army, but if you have the right strategy, I think you can probably take out the bigger army. It just looks scary at first, but it's been done and you've seen it in history. Yeah.
This disparity is presumably because the cutoff date for kids' hockey leagues is January 1st. Those born in the first part of the year are a little older and so on average bigger and faster than kids in their league born late in the year. Now as they grow up, this difference should eventually shrink to nothing, but it doesn't. Because the young kids who show the most promise are given more time on the ice and enter more tournaments where they receive better coaching and improve their skills. And these advantages compound year after year, so by the time you get to the pros, birthdays are heavily skewed towards the start of the year. But does any professional hockey player feel thankful for their birthday? Probably not. And we are all like that, largely oblivious to the fortunate events that support our success. Probably the most significant bit of luck many of us enjoy is being born into a prosperous country. Around half the variance in income received by people around the world is explained by their country of residence and that country's income distribution. If you were born in Burundi, for example, which has the world's lowest gross national income per capita of just $730 a year, it doesn't matter how smart or hardworking you are, you're unlikely to earn much as an adult.
Alright, so as far as that luck goes, I think there's a different luck in terms of survivability and productivity. Now, if we're talking about dollars, yes, we're in the US, we're in e-commerce, we have the knowledge to, make a sale. We can print money out of thin air and use that to stimulate the economy and spread that out so that we can all fight for that dollar and help each other through that dollar or serve and create products to better each other's lives. Now, as far as the guy in Africa, his luck, you'd say, maybe they've learned how to dig a water well. They've learned how to hunt for food. Now, you put a city guy in that Africa, well, I think as far as productivity in dollars, it doesn't matter, right? It's about how many days can you survive without food and water, and you got to figure out how to do that. So, is he smart? No, he's probably gonna die in a week and just dehydrate or get killed by an animal or something like that. But the guy in Africa knows, hey, there's a lion, we better watch out, we need to climb a tree, or maybe there's lions roaming this area, we don't walk out in the open, we get hunted. He's got a better survivability rate in terms of productivity, luck, and success, we call it, but because he's been imparted through generations of knowledge in that realm of surviving physically without running water from a faucet or food brought to your table from the grocery stores and whatnot. So we're going to look at it in terms of the luck, in terms of the skill that was imparted for the environment that you're adapted to. So let's just separate those. And yes, I get it, but it's like you're playing tennis versus playing hopscotch. There's maybe two different types of a skill that you need. I know analogies break down, but hopefully it takes a different skill to play a certain game at their best. Okay.
Now, many people get offended if you point out how big a role chance plays in their success. And I get it. If we are just a product of our circumstances, then our hard work and our talent seem to count for nothing. People think it has to be either skill or luck that explains success. But the truth is, you need both. Take these 8 track and field world records. All the athletes who achieved these records are obviously world-class, extremely dedicated and talented, and yet, when they achieved their world records, 7 out of 8 had a tailwind. Now, these athletes all had the ability to win a gold medal, but to set the world record required a bit of luck as well. The importance of luck increases the greater the number of applicants applying for just a few spaces. Consider the most recent class of NASA astronauts. From over 18,300 applicants in 2017, only 11 were selected and went on to graduate from the astronaut training program. Now we can make a toy model of the selection process. Let's assume that astronauts are selected mostly based on skill, experience, and hard work, but also, say, 5% as a result of luck, fortunate circumstances. For each applicant, I randomly generated a skill score out of 100, and I also randomly generated a luck score out of 100. Then I added those numbers together, weighted in the 95-5 ratio to get an overall score. This score represents the selector's judgments, meaning the top 11 by this metric would become astronauts. And I repeated this simulation 1,000 times, representing 1,000 different astronaut selections. And what I found was the astronauts who were picked were very lucky. They had an average luck score of 94.7. So how many of the selected astronauts would have been in the top 11 based on skill alone? The answer was on average only 1.6. That means, even with luck accounting for just 5% of the outcome, 9 or maybe 10 of the 11 applicants selected would have been different if luck played no role at all. When competition is fierce, being talented and hardworking is important, but it's not enough to guarantee success. You also need to catch a break. Largely, I think we're unaware of our good luck because by definition, it's not something we did. Like,
alright, I think I forgot to unmute myself, so I'm gonna do this again. So yeah, as far as the astronaut goes, it's more like the majority that got in was probably because they know someone up the food chain. And the example of Donut Deli, where I used to own here, was it Donut Deli? We were looking for a cashier, and I had over 200 applicants on Craigslist applying for a job, and I was like, dude, they're really qualified. Looks like they've got some experience and whatnot. But I was like, can I trust them? And I asked the current cashier that I had, who had a brother or sister looking for a job. They're like, yeah, I have a sister. They're like, oh, dude, bring them in. And I didn't even see the resume and whatnot. And I was just like, you know what? I think I value trust because we don't cash. And that was more important to me than a really good resume that I can't trust. So I think that was either discovered by luck or maybe just God created things where we value trust more than politics or relationships in a sense to get you in more than a good resume. So I think as you're applying for a job, I noticed that it was more than it's more about who you know than what you know. And I don't know if you've been in a job where you're like, dude, who's this guy like next to me? He doesn't know anything, and he got the job. And I'm like, dude, like, and I'm doing everything for him. And you're like, dude, he probably got hired because he knows someone that said, hey, I recommend my friend. He's good. And I was like, all right, cool, bring him in. And that's probably what happened. And so they value trust, bringing on a new employee through a good reference rather than a really good resume kind of guy. Like, he looks good unless I have no one else, then maybe I'll bring this new guy in. But if they're kind of comparable or maybe even worse, I'm like, dude, I just need this guy and he can do it. I can train him up. Hey, bring the guy that I trust, because I don't want him to run away with my stuff, right? My money or my patent or whatever it is. Okay. So I think all that is probably discovered through the success of discovery. The methodology is probably discovered by luck and just through human nature and understanding the world, and maybe this is what works,
The housework done by your significant other, it goes unappreciated. And here's the crazy thing. Downplaying the importance of chance events may actually improve your probability of success. Because if you perceive an outcome to be uncertain, you're less likely to invest effort in it, which further decreases your chances of success. So it's a useful delusion to believe you are in full control of your destiny. I mean, if I had known how bad I was when I started YouTube, or how much work it would take, I might have given up right then.
Welcome to Veritasium, an online science video blog.
Now, there may be another benefit to overlooking your lucky breaks, which is it makes it easier to justify your place in society. If you have a lot of wealth or power, you can just chalk it up to your own intelligence, effort, and perseverance. It makes it easier to accept inequality. In one experiment, participants were put in groups of 3 in small rooms to discuss a complex moral problem, and one person in each group was randomly designated the team leader. Half an hour later, the experimenter came by with 4 cookies for each team. So who got the extra cookie? In each case, it went to the team leader. Even though they had no special aptitude, they didn't have extra responsibilities, and they'd gotten their position through chance alone. Once you have achieved a certain status, it seems natural to feel like you deserve it, and all the other good things that come your way. Now, this is just an anecdote, but whenever I've been upgraded to fly business class, I've always observed the worst behavior in my fellow privileged passengers. They just act so entitled and uncourteous. And research has found evidence for this as well. In another experiment, participants were asked to think of a good thing that happened to them recently. And then one group was asked to list their own personal qualities or actions that made that good thing happen. Another group was asked to list external factors beyond their control that led to the event. And a control group was simply asked to list reasons why the good thing happened. Now, for completing this task, participants were told they would be paid $1. But at the end, they were offered the option to donate some or all of the money to a charity. Results showed those who listed their own personal attributes contributed 25% less than those who listed external factors beyond their control. Now, think of what all this means for people in our society, specifically for people in positions of power like business leaders and politicians. Now, undoubtedly, most of them are talented and hardworking, but they have also been luckier than most. And like most of us, they don't realize just how lucky they are. And this gives
All right, as far as business owners and leaders goes, like I noticed that when you're building a business, you actually do very little work in a sense, but the more work is just on managing that team, babysitting, make sure that the process are being followed, it's being policed. You have your documentation, and you have a project manager that actually enforces and polices that documentation, so that you're not doing it yourself, because it is a full-time work. That's the part that you can just outsource, and if you can do that right, then you can step yourself out, then you own an asset. But if you're constantly managing and having to scream at employees all day long and they're not following the rules, and you have to constantly fire and hire, you still own a business. You still own a job in a sense. So it's just the way you do things as far as in that success. And when I saw that happen, when I was able to sell t-shirts and make $30,000 a month, because my team was pumping out 50 shirts a week, 200 shirts a month, and then we found that one that scaled to 30,000, and we made all kinds of variation designs and we sold it. I would never have done it all by myself, but because my team, through sheer numbers, finally found it, and constantly designing, uploading, launching, create ads, boom, 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 they took care of that. And I was just amazed, like, you know what, success has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the sheer numbers and the chance of us constantly doing it until we learn. And I'm sure there's a better process out there that of course, the success of learning that, where you could just boom, instead of having to do 1 out of 50 or whatever it is, 1 out of 30 shirts, you could do it 1 out of 10. You get better and better and better out of that process, and learning and refining that process, so that you could just launch 10 shirts and boom, I'm gonna launch 50 to get my 1, but you can launch 10 and be more profitable that way, right? And I'm sure someone out there has already figured it out and learned it out of sheer chance of learning that success of that methodology. Now I want to do another methodology here. Like, why am I creating YouTube videos of Veritasium? What I've learned in another class out of the sheer chance of them learning and then sharing with me, and I bought the course, the YouTube course, and I'll share that later on, was this is called a Trojan horse video, where you kind of piggyback off on YouTube another person's channel. And my channel is on cryptocurrencies and leverage trapper bot stuff, and let me show you an example, right? And this is the chance of learning the methodology, not the success of me working harder. It's just doing what works because someone figured it out of chance. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Let me show you the my channel beauty here. So when I'm doing like my cryptocurrency stuff, yeah, I get 10, I get 30, 1, 3, 0, sometimes 50. Well, that was just another one. 36, 15, right? But then I am doing the trending news and also piggybacking off other YouTube videos called Trojan Horse. Trend and Trojan Horse videos is what gives it more of a boost. And out of this, I think I got about 8 subscribers, more subscribers than I normally would with my single comments. Okay, so was it chance? Was it me working harder? No, I think it's just out of chance, finding the proper methodology. And then I could pump. I have over 600 videos of me just doing my stuff with very little progress. And in terms of success, I guess we gauge it in terms of views or whatnot. These videos that follow topics of trends and piggyback off other YouTube channels and doing a review on them kind of helps build that channel. And then I can share my leverage trapper bot later on that maybe not too many people care about, but I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't be able to, open myself up or market myself in this sense, or let anyone know about me without having to do trending videos and Trojan Horse videos, because this is what works. This is the methodology. Okay, so hopefully that explains why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, and this is why maybe I can show you the success is on the methodology and not how much harder I work. Okay.
A distorted view of reality. They're kind of living in a form of survivor bias. All these leaders have worked hard and ultimately succeeded, so to them the world appears fair. In their experience, it rewards hard work. But what they don't have is the experience of all the people who have worked hard and failed. So what are they to make of people less successful than themselves? Well, the natural conclusion is that they must just be less talented or less hardworking. And this perspective makes them less inclined to be generous, to give back. And they are the ones who set the rules for how society operates. And this is particularly unfortunate since one of the main ways many of us are lucky is in our country of residence. But what is a country except for the things put there by people who came before? The roads and the schools, public transport, emergency services, clean air and water, everything like that. It seems a cruel trick of our psychology that successful people without any malice will credit their success largely to their own hard work and ingenuity, and therefore contribute less to maintaining the very circumstances that made that success possible in the first place. The good news is that acknowledging our fortunate circumstances not only brings us more in line with reality, it also makes us more likable. In a study where people had to read the transcript of a fictional 60 Minutes interview with a biotech entrepreneur, experimenters tried changing just the last paragraph where the interviewee is talking about the reasons for their company's success. In one version, the entrepreneur personally takes credit for the success they've had, but in the other, he says luck played a significant role. Now, people who read the luck version of the transcript judged the entrepreneur as kinder and thought they'd be more likely to be close friends with him than those who read the other version of the transcript. And raising our awareness of fortunate events can also make us happier because it allows us to feel gratitude. Personally, I am grateful to Michael Stevens of Vsauce, who on October 7th, 2012, posted the video, How Much Does a Shadow Weigh?, which shouts out my slow-motion Slinky Drop video. And within 3 days, my subscribers had increased by a third, and within a month, they had doubled, leading me to quit my part-time job and work exclusively on YouTube videos. And I'm grateful to the writer of the free newspaper they give out on the trains in Sydney, who didn't quite understand electricity, leading me to post this picture of their article to my Instagram with the caption, What's wrong with this picture? And I'm lucky that the first person to answer correctly was a beautiful woman who became my future wife. Yep, that is how I met your mother. Now, initially, I wanted to make this video just to say our circumstances and psychology conspire to make us oblivious to our own luck. And this leads successful people to view the world as fair and those less successful than them as less talented or less hardworking. And this is before you factor in any discrimination or prejudice. But it also became apparent to me that I should talk about what to do if you want to be successful in such a world. And I think the best advice is paradoxical. First, you must believe that you are in complete control of your destiny and that your success comes down only to your own talent and hard work. But second, you've got to know that's not true for you or anyone else. So you have to remember, if you do achieve success, that luck played a significant role, and given your good fortune, you should do what you can to increase the luck of others.
Alright, yes, so, work, you still gotta do work. It doesn't do anything to sit there and just do the methodology, right? But I'd say a lot of the, no matter how hard you work while doing it wrong, it's not gonna give you any success. Now, if you do it the right way, that's been working, and then you put a little bit of work or you use a different way of doing things, that will produce a success. Now, for example, a lot of things, we like to build things and then sell it, but then a lot of people have done this great ideas, built this awesome product, but can't sell it. And now a lot of people who have done it well, they sell it first, get the money, and then use that to fund the project and then deliver on that project. If you can't sell it, why create it and waste your time on it, right? Because now you're committed on this project that you can't sell, and you're like stuck, and you're like, and you go kind of bomb, you do it again. So you got to master that selling point of be able to sell the idea. Is there a need out there? Is there a demand? If there is no need, there's no demand, there's no point in creating that project, even though you think it's a fantastic idea and that everyone should have it. So that's one thing. And another example that I want to share is this. Let me show you my my leverage trapper bot. We've been oh, I can't show you that. Okay, it's in my Discord actually. Let me just show you my Discord. So we were able to get in on the bottom of this pump. Alright, let me see. Let me try to max it out for you a little bit. Max it out. This is my private group here. And you see how we entered right on that wick. And how do we do that? Like, normally you do like, how do you know where this bottom is? It took a while to figure it out, and we actually discovered this by mistake. Notice here that this number is always 0, and it's not supposed to be. The velocity is supposed to be calculated here, but what really happens that I had a bug and I noticed it, but what happened was that this 0 subtracted by this makes this a positive number, and then we divided by the time, because this is acceleration, so you divide it by another time difference here, and that created this. So whenever this goes negative, that means it's coming down. Then when it comes down, that's when we buy. Okay, but then that number has to reach certain transition points, and those transition points is tracked over here. So we know that on the 30-minute here, If it crosses 0.382, this is when we start to buy. But then we don't get it right. We don't get it right on it because we would probably miss it. So we kind of like give an offset of like 25 or 50%. So if it's like 0.35, we get in. Okay. Now I know this. I don't want to confuse you guys, but that's what we discovered on accident, and that's the methodology that I didn't come up with, but it was discovered by luck, maybe because I made a mistake somehow or whatever it is. I'm like, what if I could do this on a 30-minute, 20-minute, 15-minute, 10-minute? And get in all those times and not just on the 30-minute because I messed up on that 30-minute and everything else is okay. Now, what if I kind of continue with that methodology that was discovered on accident? Now we're able to get in on real good, get out when we need to get out, and that was discovered not because I worked harder to do that and figure it out. It was actually discovered, that methodology was discovered on accident, and now that just kind of like, hey, why is it I'm working hard but I'm not getting my job? Well, actually, what was discovered was that is more about who you know than what you know. So you need to rub shoulders and know someone that that's already in, and they'll probably get you in a job easier. Okay, I'm sure that would be a higher percentage of getting a job than trying to apply with hundreds of people with a resume, and you're just buried down there with as a number. Okay. All right, let's go back over to the video. I think that's pretty much it. He's pretty much done with this video.
Hey, so I had an idea for what I could do to increase the luck of others, and that is to give away 100 Snapps kits to people who...
Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. He's promoting his product that he created about molecules with magnets and stuff, so you kind of play around with the attraction of the molecules that takes energy to break apart. But hopefully that kind of helps explain my thoughts on the success and failure. I think it's a success of the methodology, doing it right, and then working hard in a sense to make that methodology work. But not only that, leveraging that methodology, which is another thought like, hey, I can hire people. I can have a team and break these processes up so that it can do more than what I can do with that same working methodology, and then you can scale and leverage that. And then that will actually make that success more open. So I'm gonna start applying some of that stuff. I want to build the second version of the bot, and I was like, hey, you know what? From what I've learned from other people, it's like, hey, sell it first, then build it. If I can't sell it, why build it, right? And why waste my time? And I spent quite a few years building this, and on top of that, if I have the money too, I can actually hire a better programmer and can do better than I can ever do full time, and I can only program at night when I'm tired and I'm done with the kids, right? I can hire them because I got the funds already to build that project, and then send it back over there, and then we got a product, and we can have a product that makes a much better bot, and they have 10 years of programming skills where I just kind of picked it up on my own, and they can do way better job than I could ever do. Alright, so thanks for watching. I think I learned a lot with this video. I hope you did too. I'll be doing some more videos with something that's similar to this, and reviewing other things that I've learned on YouTube and sharing with you guys. Go ahead and like this video and share below. I'll put the original link of the video so you can watch the original. And thanks Veritasium for your video. I'm looking to see more, and we'll talk to you then.